Google, Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. And without further ado, let's roll. Good evening, folks. I'm Scott. That's JD, and that's Brandon down there, who's teleporting himself into and out of New York Jets camp. He's doing a fantastic job of that. He got all of the Jets to sit there and pose for a fantastic picture behind him.
Yeah.
He's on a little bit of a time delay, as you can tell, because of the fact that right now the teleportation system that he has is not perfected yet. Science and technology can only go so far at this point. But we will figure it out. We will make it work. But he will be giving his talk about the Jets, his training camp on that, what's going on over there. And in the meantime, gentlemen, how are you?
Doing okay today?
All right. So we got a few things I figure we'll probably talk about a little in this case here. Some people may be aware that Lionel Messi got to start this weekend. The women's national soccer team had a solid victory over a team that I don't think anybody even realized had a soccer team at that point. Drew apparently about 5.5 million viewers too, so respect to that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Maybe talk a little Jets, maybe talk a little Mets, see how we go till we get bored, and then probably more or less call it. But in this case, gentlemen, is there anything you want to start off with before we get into any of that?
I will say that they must have used some NFL script writers for that MLS debut for Messi. Wow. And they're clearly, non-union writers, obviously.
Of course, yeah, because you got WGA's on strike right now. But listen, this would fall into more like reality programming, so actually there may not be a union jurisdiction there.
Yeah.
So it might be doable. But yeah, he comes on. What was funny, I was actually talking about this with somebody yesterday. He comes on, and him and Busquets immediately concede a goal, and the game is now tied at 1. Nobody talks about that because he gets that free kick, lands it in the corner, wins. He's a hero. Everybody's happy. But that game came perilously close to actually going into a shootout. And as soon as he came on, his team might have actually lost.
I mean, Messi or not, Inter Miami was still a last place team before this past week. So they got a ways to go.
They do. Right now per playoff status, playoffstatus.com gives them a 2% chance of actually reaching the postseason at this point, a 98% chance of watching it from the outside. This has not factored in Messi's, strength on this. Right now, the team, I think, has 11 games remaining. It is plausible to pull it off if they get, like, say, 15, 18 points in those 11. It is doable if they average, like, say, 2 points a game. But we'll see what happens there. But
yeah.
I don't know.
And also Cruz Azul was they were 8th in Clausura the second half of the Liga MX season last year. So it's not like they were playing the league champions.
Mm-hmm.
So that is also worth noting. I've been referring back to that a lot for this tournament since I don't pay that much attention to Liga MX on a regular basis, but I do. But from following the union with CONCACAF Champions League and from CONCACAF Champions League from this tournament, I've seen a few teams play, and their style is noticeably different from MLS.
Here's a question I want to ask both of you guys as I think about this right now. With Major League Soccer, you play for a little while, then you have a random break to play a different tournament inside your season. You restart the season, you stop the season in front of the tournament, restart the season, finish it out. In this case here, this is one of those things that was even referenced in Ted Lasso for the sheer oddity of it. Would you want Major League Baseball to have a WBC, say, hypothetically, within a Major League Baseball season? Like, stop the season, start up WBC, and then resume.
I think it'd be fantastic, but it'll never happen.
You mean like the NBA, what they're doing with their ridiculous tournament? We're in December.
Yeah, kind of.
I haven't looked up the details of the NBA.
And it's just this whole thing. I don't know. It seems, again, I hate using words like gimmicky or something like that. It feels like there is weaker team, some type of extra, not, I don't want to say leveling the field, but kind of break up the monotony of, the varying difference between a great team and a bad team. No, maybe something like that. But I don't know. Called me an old head, yell at clouds, whatever. But like, I like my seasons to be a season, postseason, off season, and then we start the cycle again with preseason stuff. So I know, again, I don't follow soccer closely enough like you guys do. So maybe in that sport it does make more sense. More of a. Well, I don't really.
I'll be real. I don't like it. Last night I was at Leagues Cup at Citi Field, and it felt to me like a glorified exhibition game because it blocks out 4 weeks out of the regular season. If NYCFC loses on Wednesday, they will not have a match until August 20th. So you have a full 4 weeks where they're just going to be sitting there twiddling their thumbs until, the season starts up again. And a lot of teams are doing that right now. To me, it's almost, I feel like a distraction or training just for the new guys that they have coming in, just to get them some training under the belt a little bit. But it doesn't feel like a tournament. Now, maybe because I'm following a team right now with only 5 wins in 24 matches. It's very possible there. But it's also one of those things where I think a lot of the fans on this side of the fence are more interested in seeing how the rest of the season plays out. And if they can still scratch out some miracle of a playoff spot, but have to wait a literal month to find that out. And maybe that's part of it. I mean, you follow a good team, so it's, it's a little different on your side of the fence than as opposed to mine, who keeps selling off their high profile players for money.
Well, I kind of see what you mean as far as having a bit of an exhibition game type feel, because I mentioned this to you when I was at Subaru Park on Saturday before the game started, where I also had a similar vibe, like the stadium, or at least the stadium kind of felt that way. And then I remembered that that's because Chelsea and Brighton were playing at the Link 20 minutes away. And so, yes, it was, by comparison, depending on the level of soccer fan you're talking to, the questions about, how much overlap is there between the first game and what is kind of an unknown entity as far as a mid-season tournament, because this is the first time where there's been a big crossover tournament like this with the two leagues that is this big. Previous versions of the Leagues Cup only had 4 or 8 teams from each league. This is the first one where the entirety of MLS and Liga MX 29 and 18 teams respectively, 47 teams in this tournament. So they're trying to set it up almost like a World Cup type tournament or US Open or something like that. But it's interesting, and it was something that once the gameplay started, it kind of had a better feel to it. But it definitely was it was an odd vibe.
My team gave up a goal 7 minutes in, and that was the final.
Yeah, that's.
I will say, I do have a question though. Was the catering at Subaru Park better than normal?
It was the same.
Oh, okay. Because I was very surprised. Because normally, here's the funny thing: I've become sort of like a press snob when it comes to like the catering. Because I'm used to Yankee Stadium, where it's like New York Strip and things like that. And I understand most of them aren't like that. But when I go to Citi Field, it's not like you got like these really cheap, like thin, like ham sandwiches they got. And yesterday, instead, they had chicken tenders, they had barbecue sauce, they had like French fries, they had cheeseburgers, they had salads. They had they had flaming hot pretzels, and you could put stuff on them and everything like that.
Did they actually open up that other cafeteria? Or?
No, they had the buffet set in that press area. So both of you guys have been in City Field. You know what it looks like when you get in there. So it was funny because normally where like you have your boxed lunches there, they had full spread across. I mean, I'm probably missing a couple of things there. I was very pleasantly surprised because I went in there figuring I was going to get like some kind of a bread sandwich.
I will say that I don't want to get too far off the tangent with this because it is
saying shut up and get back to it.
Well, it's partly that, and also just sports right. Something as I've recently gotten into this business, sports writers spending the majority of their time and in some cases a good amount of column space talking about food is an earned stereotype.
And some of them, actually, one person that we both know pretty much goes there, raids it, and puts it in bags and takes it home with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't mention that name, but you know of whom I speak. Yeah, but okay. So bringing it back at this point. Sorry, long day. I don't really, like I said, I can't get jonesed about the Leagues Cup because it's like I want to see if my team actually makes the playoffs.
Also, with the layoff, I think that the teams that don't make it out of group stage and are sitting around twiddling their thumbs, I think you're going to see some friendlies pop up in the next few weeks to kind of just keep from getting too rusty. Because I've seen, I'm expecting something similar to like what I've seen in high school basketball before. Like you have teams that are garbage that don't make their respective, county or they lose early in the county tournament, and then they're sitting around for 2 weeks before the state tournament starts. So they'll pick up a game, randomly just to, just so it's a glorified practice, basically. So the same thing will probably happen here, where it's because I looked up for the format for how they're doing it. It's you have I believe it's 15 groups of 3. And then you have top two of those 3 groups qualify. And there was 2 teams, LAFC and the Liga McKees champion, who
whoever that
was. I'm blanking who that is off the top of my head. Where they got the bye directly into the round of 32 past the group stage. So you'll be starting out with 32 teams in the knockout round. Yeah,
so that's at least elimination. That gets a little more interesting at that point.
So by next weekend, we'll be down to 16 teams.
Yeah, August 2nd to the 4th is the next run for the next round. Like I said, it's single elimination, so it gets a little more interesting at that point. When it comes to like the new playoff format, there's the best of 3 play-in thing, which we'll see how that ends up playing out in the near future. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what ends up happening there. But do you have anything else that you want to go into with something like this? Or
I just want to talk a little, instead of talking about the food. Maybe we'll talk about the actual games. You did say that as so it was Atlas they lost, that NYCFC lost 1-0. Yeah, and Atlas, Atlas has been an up and down team lately. They won both sides of the because Liga McKees also splits up their season into 2 halves, similar to like U.S. minor league baseball teams do. So they have 2 halves of the season they call Apertura and Clausura, and then they play each other. For the Campeón de Campeones. So Atlas went from winning both halves of the 2021 season, qualified for CONCACAF. They were kind of up and down, but so they're kind of up and down this season, but they sold off a few of their better players. So they came back down to the pack a little bit.
And still beat NYCFC anyway.
Yeah. And who's the 3rd team in that group? Toronto?
Yeah.
All right. So, and then the Union have Tijuana and Querétaro in their group. They beat Tijuana 3-1 the other day, which I will say, which you're the guy that we both know from who I don't know if we can say his name. Yeah.
Well, Voldemort, he who must not be named in this case.
Okay. So I was chatting with him during the game, and he told me about an incident involving Miguel Herrera, the Tijuana coach, which just about the craziness of things that happen in soccer, especially outside of the U.S., where he told me, he said a story about this coach. I thought he was joking, and then I looked it up and found out that it was real. That Miguel Herrera, who's now the coach of Club Tijuana, was the Mexican national team coach briefly until he was fired in 2015 after he had a Twitter war with a reporter, threatened him, and then they bumped into each other in the TSA line at the Philly airport. And the coach just went up to him and cold cocked him, punched him in the neck. So there was a brawl in the TSA line at the airport. That got back, and then the Mexican Federation, justifiably fired him as coach of the national team after this.
Did that story come from Roberto? Because he is an encyclopedia, that man.
Yes, he was the one that told me about this, and I said I thought he was joking, and he made that up, but that I looked it up, and it's real, and it actually happened. So, but that also led to a chef's kiss moment where Herrera picked up a yellow card, on the bench in the 34th minute of the game for probably a few magic words to the officials. Less than a minute later, Jose Martinez, the Union midfielder, who is he's kind of like an IED in the midfield for the Union. Great player, effective, but liable to blow at any time.
Violent.
And he picks up a yellow.
The Philadelphia Union. I'm dating myself a little bit on that reference.
And then Martinez picks up a yellow. So you have the two most combustible personalities in the building earning yellow cards within less than a minute of each other.
Yep. Yeah, you guys, like I said, I mean, I did not expect the Union to lose that game at home. You guys, I'm sure you had a good turnout there. I know Tom Karwacki was over there as well, sending pictures and whatnot. But
I didn't see the attendance number, but I guess it was about 80% full.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, you guys, like I said, you had another event going on in that location. Last night for NYCFC was about 22,000, which actually, believe it or not, they have the second highest attendance growth in the league this year.
Yeah. But about the Union game itself, the Union won 3-1, but it was the kind of game where, yes, they won, but they still should have played. But everybody, from Coach Curtin to Julian Carranza, who I interviewed after the game,
nice.
They all kind of had an attitude of like, yes, we won, but this should have been a 4-0, 5-0 win, not 3-1.
Something just run away with it, yeah.
Right. So, like playing like this against better competition will come back to bite them. But it works against a team that finished 15th out of 18 in Liga MX. I'm expecting much of the same against Querétaro on Wednesday, but we shall see.
Fair enough. Okay, so you got Wednesday. Are you going on Wednesday or no?
Yes.
Okay.
One other note that wasn't related to either one of our teams, but just worth a quick mention, was the Vancouver game. They played I forget, Tigres, I think, maybe. Just ask the Google right in front of me. But that went to a shootout that went 16 rounds.
This is exactly why, and I'm in the minority on this, and I've mentioned this on a few occasions, but I love the shit out of shootouts.
Yeah. Vancouver and Leon.
A lot of people in the soccer world hate them. They want to go for the ties, which was parodied and mocked, I think, in the episode of The Simpsons once, where they talked about like soccer, Mexican soccer coming to Springfield. But I love the drama of it. I love the excitement of it. I love what it means, and I mean that for soccer, but I also mean that for hockey as well. There's just something unique about the one-on-one face-off aspect of it that just keeps you on the end of your seat. Now it's weird because a lot of people don't like it. They want ties. They like it. In this case, under the league rules, in this case with Leagues Cup, if it goes to a shootout, the loser gets a single point for going into overtime. Right.
And there's no overtime. If it's tied after 90, it goes right to a shootout.
It pretty much is the same as the NHL rules in this case, because you go to overtime in any sort. And we'll call it overtime in this case. The losers get a point. The winners they fight after the second point. What muddies the waters a little bit in the NHL world where you have an 80 some odd game schedule, but here where you have 2 games and then moving on, that 1 point means the freaking world there.
Yes.
So like I said, that kind of drama, the last 2 MLS finals have ended with shootouts as well to heighten that degree of drama in a lot of ways too. What's that? What was that?
I said, yeah, I'm well aware of that.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean it from that perspective. I'm just talking about the dramatics aspect.
I do think that it should be golden goal. They shouldn't be playing the full 30.
Yeah, just
overtime and the shootout. That's my main thing. You don't decide. You don't decide the World Series of the home run derby. So that's the equivalent of what deciding a knockout round match in a shootout is to me.
Or the 2002 All-Star game, which ended in a tie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I mean, like I said, for me that makes it interesting. But I don't know. I'll be curious to see what happens. I'll be at the New York City Football Club will be playing their home match at Red Bull Arena, home of the New York City Red Bulls where they have their derby, because the Mets and the Yankees are playing, and our NYCFC does not, in fact, have a stadium. So,
they at least have one on the way in a few years. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm gonna use the training facility. That is a gorgeous looking training facility in Orangeburg. And it's funny because all the players live in Jersey, like 20 minutes away.
Yeah, because they probably can't afford. They can't afford to rent in New York City either.
That's not true. There's only a couple of them that actually live in New York City, but they all live in Jersey. And it's funny because a lot of them carpool in from like Montclair, Ridgewood, Palisades Park. A couple of people I think live up like in Suffern and Airmont too. But when your training facilities in Orangeburg, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Woods.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it's a nice training facility over there. And
I do think this tournament will pick up a bit more juice in the later rounds. But early on with mismatched teams, that is tough.
Once it's single elimination, I think the dramatics increase a lot. But right now, it's all about points and nothing else. But as you can see from that picture there, you can see the numbers 16 and 15.
Yeah, and it was Leon who beat Vancouver in this epic shootout.
And they were in Vancouver?
Yes, I believe so.
See, when the home team loses after that much, we can't forget that Vancouver once rioted when they lost the Stanley Cup Finals a bunch of years ago.
Yeah, this is nowhere near those kinds of stakes.
Well, I mean, it's funny because you don't really think of Canada being hostile that way.
Try talking to a drunken Leafs fan.
What's that? Oh, yeah, but okay, Vancouver, Western Canada. You're just north of like Seattle up there. But, all right. So, anything else on this one? You think? Or are we good?
I'm good. Let's wake up Brandon. We can.
Like I said, we got to get him involved in something like this here too. So, because he's been patiently waiting on this one to talk.
Scotty, beam me up.
They never said that in the show. Never once.
I'm saying it now. Yeah, Florham Park. Boys behind me. There's Aaron. They're going to play. The Enterprise is a little low on gas, so it's a little laggy here, but I am here at Florham Park. So,
nice.
So Jets have started training camp earlier than other teams. They are in coming up in the preseason. The season started, and just everything so far is really just been positive. Ian Williams has signed his deal. We have Aaron, obviously the trade with Aaron Rodgers. Everybody's in games in practice and everything to see all the guys happy. And yes, the reports of some tension that build up in day one. But I really think that's much ado about nothing. you know, depending on the team, that can either be a killer or a motivator. And just again, with all the positives like that I've kind of been enforcing this through this whole thing, I think it is going to be at least much ado about nothing, if not a motivator. And you know, they'll just keep moving along. And what's great is the engagement of Rodgers specifically with not just the team, but with the younger guys, the younger receivers, because what was his big one of his big criticism being in Green Bay with these newer receivers other than Devontae Adams is that he didn't want to or didn't seem to engage in any type of real acts of trying to build chemistry and stuff like that. He kind of just seemed to just work on the natural talent of his quarterback play to get those guys. And I think that's kind of been the opposite. We've seen him with Wilson. I mean, it's, you know, another number 17. Maybe that's a little fate that he's built this such a great chemistry with a young receiver in his second year that I had said from the start that I think he's going to be top 5 yards and touchdowns this year, Garrett Wilson, if everything goes to plan. And the chemistry between those two, I think, is going to be so key because the biggest issues obviously last year were quarterback play, quarterback chemistry with receivers. There was obviously the divide there. And that seems to all be put to rest thus far. You know, it's just practice, of course. But another great thing is kind of what we've been hearing in some conferences on the sideline, a lot of these questions of, are you going to be here in a year? And all of his answers, whether you read lines or you're reading the lines exactly, he's pretty much that he is trying to at least turn this into season, experiment. Basically, you know, he mentioned having all these guys on rookie deals and having the young guys that are super talented. I think really everybody is from top to bottom right now is on the same page of really trying to come out of the gate strong. Yes, they have a really tough schedule these first 6 weeks, but if we're as good as I think they are, and we as good as maybe we think they are too, I think they, you know, pretty strong. You know, at 3-3, 4-2, hopefully at the very least, I don't think would be too shabby. But you know, I think what was great, and I mentioned to you guys a couple of days ago, and it came out yesterday. These jerseys, the legacy whites.
Love it.
Back to 80s, the sack exchange look. I think it is so. It could be nothing. I know it's nothing to maybe us as fans, but something like that to start off week 1, guys coming right out of the gate with swag with the jersey. You know, that'd be meaningful to guys. You come out of the gate strong. I don't know. Very, very exciting time. Be a Jets fan. Oh man, they're so nice. Look at that. So great.
I dig it.
To match. Yeah. Yeah, I
It
think,
does feel right.
you know, they're 1-4. I wish we got them 1 or 2 more times throughout the course of the season. It's just, you know, I obviously you don't want to overdo it, and it kind of ruins the specialness of it. But you know, I'd like it more than twice. But
I think there's some obscure league rule that they can only wear throwbacks more than 2 or 3 games per season.
Yeah,
I think it's some stupid league rule like that. I think.
I was actually thinking it today that these leagues, the leagues, like maybe 3 dedicated weekends or weeks where all the teams wear their retro jerseys and just kind of have like a retro thing and just kind of do it that way. Again, you don't do it too often, otherwise it becomes the uniqueness of it. Things aside, whether the jerseys, all retro
jerseys,
you know, you see Rodgers with the 8 chain that he was given. No, those are terrible. I
hated those Titans jerseys. I'm sorry, those just look. Those Titans jerseys just look like they ripped them off from LSU.
It felt unnatural.
What logo? There is no logo. It's just a blank blue helmet.
It looks more.
They
like
are way better than
LSU.
Or what were the Packers jerseys that had just the? The Packers
grant you
had
this. I mean,
a few
Yeah, I
years
remember
ago,
those.
just that's worse than those Titans jerseys.
I don't know. Then you had the
I like
Pittsburgh
Titans
Steelers Bumblebee one.
The Bumblebee ones were okay.
Oh,
I didn't like them. I will give the Jets credit though. They actually, I mean, even that look right there, and obviously this is Aaron Rodgers built into it, fine. But they have a way of actually being just really slick with their jersey. Whoever their department is that comes up with these jersey ideas, give them a lot of credit because they know how to make the green work. I mean, I don't usually go for like new and updated. That's a good one. It really is.
Personally, I've always liked this shade of green and the
Mhm.
90s shades of green jerseys better than the Back to the Future retro darker green jerseys that they wore for better part of 20 years from the late 90s. I like this look better. That the all black jersey though, I'm not really a big fan of.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Eagles going back to their more retro jersey from the 90s, I like that too. And I think it's one of those things.
The one that is basically this exact same jersey.
Well, you know what? I don't like the dark. I don't like the dark green. It's too foresty for me. But I don't know. I like the old style, and I think
I like these Kelly.
Yes.
I think people are waxing nostalgic so much for the 80s and 90s that a lot of teams are trying to do that fallback. The Mets tried to do that for a while. A lot of teams are trying to do that member-berry thing with the jerseys themselves. And you know what? I think it's kind of working.
The Giants did it too.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing. The Giants need to update it because they've been going with that, that look that they've had for, 30 years almost, with the exception of the occasional – and once in a while they'll do the color rush. But that's
what I'm talking about. The Color Rush '86 uniforms that they do when they bring it.
I like the color rush.
Those I like.
I like the color rush more than I did when I was a kid. But it's funny because maybe it is a member-berry thing. But it's funny because they've had like the white jersey, the new updated one since like the mid-90s. That has been their mainstay since like 95, I think it was.
It was like 90. I remember it was like 99, 2000-ish. Because both the Giants and the Jets both switched back to retro jerseys. Like they basically both brought back their 1960s and 70s jerseys at around the same time. But the Jets brought theirs back in '98. The Giants did theirs, I think, either the following year or the year after. Because I remember they had them for the Super Bowl. They got blasted again by the Ravens.
That was ugly, man. Oh my God. Remember Jim Rome was like, the feel good team is not the team that always wins. And by God, was he ever right on that one? 1994 looks like they had a 75th anniversary throwback.
That was what started a lot of teams going back because for the 75th anniversary in '94, I think every team had throwbacks for a few weeks, similar to like what Brandon was saying, where it was just a kind of a dedicated thing where everybody did like for select weeks of that season. I'm surprised they didn't do more with that with the 100-year anniversary a few years back, but
that's the 75th anniversary, so it looks like they still had the old style then.
Okay, yeah, so it was probably 2000 when they switched.
Yeah, I guess it was.
I like those.
Damn, I thought it was earlier than that.
No,
But by the way, the Gridiron Uniform is a fantastic website. There we go. Anyway,
I don't know. Those work. Those helmets, that's nice. Too bad you could only see color in person.
So, by the way,
I didn't even know they had red and blue helmets because you only there only were black and white photos from back then.
This is a fantastic website. If you really want to take a trip down memory lane for teams that have been around, the Bears from the 1920s or whatever team they were called, the
Decatur Staleys or something.
Yeah,
I think they were before.
The Chicago White Beavers or whatever they were called or something. But yeah. So I want to get your thoughts on something. If we're good here, I think we kind of run this as far as we can.
One thing I will say about about the Jets training camp, I will say that I'm
back on.
We haven't even seen the beginning of Hard Knocks yet, but I'm already tired of hearing everybody with the organization do nothing but whine. Oh, the league forced us to be on this. We don't want this. It's a distraction. Blah blah blah. Well, if it's that much of a distraction, then this team is not as good as as everybody is trying to tell us that they are. And while some of my ultimate favorite Hard Knocks moments happened in the 2010 season that the Jets were on it, I'm pretty sure let's get a GD snack is going to be on Rex Ryan's tombstone when the time comes. And we're probably, I don't expect to see much of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with not seeing players getting cut, though. That was apparently one of the things that Saleh pushed back hard on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually okay with that one, because I mean, these are still humans, and it's a bit tacky to show people, have live footage of people losing their jobs.
You mentioned that. I was having a conversation with a radio guy a couple of days ago. I feel bad for the players. I do, from a human aspect of it, a human element of it. And his response was very simple. He's like, these guys are paid to play a sport. They can deal with whatever's thrown at them. And I don't know, maybe I'm oversympathetic to a degree, or maybe he's undersympathetic, or some combination of the two. But I don't know. To me, they're just kids.
I get it to a point. But also, there's you have the veterans who've been playing for the veterans who are making, 7 and 8 figures are different from the ones who are just hanging on, just trying to cling to practice squad hopes. And, some of them might be working at Walmart in a few weeks.
Yeah.
That there's a big difference between the top of the roster and the bottom, as there is the same as there is in a lot of professions.
But we love those stories about the guy that was working, at ShopRite one day, and then he gets pulled into the Super Bowl and catches a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl like the following week.
Right.
We pee all over ourselves for stories like that.
It's different with an established veteran guy. Let's pick a guy like Odell, right? Odell, you're cut. It's easier for you to say that, or because somebody like that, whether it be in a couple, months or a few weeks or whatever. And it's not just him. There are other guys where they will be on a team.
Mm-hmm.
Guys guaranteed that kind of, I don't want advantage of having that be like, well, at a 30, somebody will pick me up eventually. I can chill on what I have until then. There are reasons why there are a lot of the minimum for like a veteran is $1 million. Okay, right.
Mm-hmm.
That's just for a veteran. What about these kids that are playing these undrafted, these late round kids that are on these rookie deals, and let's say the team even picks them up for a 5th year. Even the 5th year, they barely might make $1 million that year. At that point, like, all those kids are, and again, it's all relative to everybody else.
That's only the first round picks that get those deals.
Right. So it's really not that, especially with football, where the amount of people that need to, have the pie sliced up for. It's not like especially basketball, where you are getting especially the big names, you are getting the biggest, if not a big piece of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
So for football with the Hard Knocks, and again, Hard Knocks traditionally has done teams that are either we know that they're going to be bad, or there's questions where they'll be maybe average at best, where a lot of those roster moves and manipulation, like the reason the teams are not that great is because overall the talent is. So when you do that to these guys, it's over the course of the league and how many guys are in the league, a lot of the guys are in the league. So I think there is that human element that really to be, and or you could say that for a big name, but the average
NFL career is like 3 years.
About that, yeah. I think 2.5, yeah. But,
Like or basketball where these guys are going to play, you know, in 10 years, if not. Like, again, what is quarterbacks drive it up? But if you take quarterbacks out, the average, it is what, 2.5, 3 years? That's hardly a contract.
yeah, okay.
So
Here,
that's hardly the length of a contract in a so that's
So here we
put things in perspective.
There's only, I think, something like 10% of all players, you know, in the NFL who even make it to their second contract.
the league average is 3.3 years. Kickers and punters have the longest average career. Do you want to take a guess how long the average kicker/punter career is?
Probably like 5 years.
Kick.
Yeah, not even.
I would say 7, 5. Okay.
4.87. By the way, I just want to change it to something other than Giants jersey. The punters and kickers have the longest career on average in the NFL at 4.87, followed by the quarterbacks at 4.44. The lowest, unsurprisingly, is running backs at 2.57.
I'm surprised. I thought it'd be less than 2 at this point.
No, well, I mean, occasionally you get the guy who does have the longer career, which probably skews the numbers entirely.
Frank Gore probably single-handedly blows out that average.
Yeah. O linemen are 363, defensive linemen 324, and then linebackers, cornerbacks, tight ends, and wide receivers are all 2.5 to 3.
Yeah, the ones who are cannon fodder in the trenches have the shortest career. That is not surprising.
Yeah, so there's your numbers right there specifically. But not a long career in that sport. I actually kind of feel like maybe I should start. So.
And I believe they're paid the lowest on average out of the top 4 sports. Because the NFL Players Union is the weakest by far out of the traditional 4 sport or 4 North American sports between football, baseball, basketball, and hockey. So they because I've once seen where just even everything compared to, say, baseball, who has the strongest players union, compared to football, who has the weakest. The pension and retirement payouts are almost double and what they get, and they have healthcare included. Meanwhile, we have football players who have way more physical sport than baseball, and they get less than half the money.
That's what I'm saying. Being a kicker is probably the best way to do it. If they run in, it's a 15-yard penalty if they hit you.
Yeah, but also if you have one bad week and your career is done.
Also true. Yeah, but then usually you get a lot of times latch on to a different team. The Robbie Goulds out there. Vinatieri I think bounced a little bit towards the end. If you're a kicker with a career, you're pretty much you can find something somewhere. And if
but for every Robbie Gould, there's players like that, that other Chicago Bears kicker who missed like 4 field goals in 1 week and was never heard from again, or teams that go through like 5 kickers in a season because they are all terrible.
Oh yeah, double doink guy, whatever his name was.
Yeah.
But by the way, Major League Baseball, the average time for a pitcher is 5.6 years. In case you're wondering.
Yeah.
So, by the way, do you want to wish a happy birthday to someone?
Sure.
Let's see, where did I put it? Happy 59th birthday to Mr. Barry Bonds. I don't know if basically you had any opinions on that, but I found that picture to be
my opinion is he should be in the Hall of Fame, full stop.
Fair enough. No agreement, no disagreement. At this point, let them all in. Listen, if Bud Selig can get into the Hall of Fame, and got inducted, I think, 2017.
And all the managers who look the other way. Everybody else involved in the game who look the other way on steroids is in. But Bonds and Clemens and a bunch of other people aren't. But guaranteed there are people in the Hall of Fame who did steroids, just their dealers weren't caught like the ones in the Mitchell report.
By the way, also specifically today, back in 1993, We had how do I put this? There we go. The Vince Coleman Cherry Bomb Day.
Oh, yeah, the firecracker.
Firecracker at Dodger fans, yes. That was a bad era to be a Mets fan.
Luckily, that was before my time, although the biggest thing from that...
Yeah.
Although I did... reading the worst team money could buy was absolutely hilarious when I was a teenager, although... I think that we can officially put a sequel on that of, no, this year's Mets team is the worst team money could buy.
No, you know what? I disagree. 2002. Because they brought in Mo Vaughn, Jeremy Brunitz.
Yeah, it was.
Robbie Alomar was in the team. That was a team that was supposed to have actually gone somewhere, and then they just. Listen, even as a Yankee fan back then, I was fired up and jonesed about what that team could be able to do because that was fun to watch.
Yeah, and they had Art Howe as manager, where I swear you needed to check his pulse to make sure he was still awake during half the games.
As the not at this point yet late Michael Kay said, it's like promising to bring back Cindy Crawford to meet your parents, and instead bringing back Rosie O'Donnell. Brutal as hell in my mind.
Yeah, that era, that 2003 Mets team was pretty. That 02-03 Mets team,
yeah,
those were pretty damn bad.
But back then there was,
but they weren't $300 million bad.
337 or whatever they're at right now. But I mean, at that point, they were supposed to bring in Lou Piniella and then switch tactics at the last minute and brought in Art Howe from Oakland. Yeah, out of his element a little bit on that. But I was disappointed.
Yeah, but Piniella wanted too much money because that's how the Wilpons ran everything.
And I think basically, didn't Piniella go down to Tampa?
Tampa.
Yeah.
No, he went to Chicago first, then Tampa. So he went to, no, it was Dusty Baker in Chicago for that, and then Piniella after. And double check the order on that.
Yeah, I gotta go look that up.
They also completely botched Griffey in 2000.
Yep. And actually, Barry Larkin.
A-Rod too.
For that. Yeah, there was a lot of people. There was a lot of players that A-Rod was in there.
A-Rod grew up a Mets fan, so there was a lot of
Barry Larkin almost went to give a Met at one point too. I mean, he named his kid like his kid's middle name was Shea.
That was just because he had such a good career there, and just did nothing but kill the Mets for his whole career.
If you can't beat him, join him, right?
Yeah.
But
I know like 3 Mets fans who had dogs named Shea.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Yankees as manager, Yankees, Reds, Mariners, which is probably what he's best known for. Tampa from 2003 to 2005, and then the Cubbies from 07 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 World Series. He won a World Series with the Reds. Okay, interesting.
Everybody forgets about that 1990 Reds team.
Paul O'Neill won a World Series with that team, and no one remembers.
Yeah. Oh, I was just thinking about Paul O'Neill the other day when Jared Kalenic broke his foot kicking a water cooler.
Yeah, well, Tommy Canely just beat the shit out of a fan, literally. By the way, fan being an actual oscillating fan, not an actual human fan. But,
yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, that was glorious. That if that doesn't personify the Mets or the Yankees, actually both. This season nothing can. But
that's up there with Kevin Brown breaking his hand punching a wall.
I know, that was great.
Well, that was like
all these people try to be.
Yeah, but the one I read about Kalenic in the water cooler, and I immediately thought of Paul O'Neill because anytime he lost his mind, he would just absolutely pick up a bat and just start wailing on a water cooler. And I think when he retired, some fan actually mailed him a busted up water cooler to the clubhouse.
I believe it. It was funny. Actually, his kids picked up Little League, and they started to beat the crap out of their own water coolers. And his wife, Neville, said, it's like, your son, just beat up a water cooler. I was like, yeah, where do you think he got it from? But all right, do we have anything else you think, or we are good?
Yeah. Well, this is another one that made me think of. Have you ever watched Hot Ones? The show with the YouTube show with the celebrity interviews as they eat progressively hotter hot sauce. they had an episode with John Stamos, who had the Disney Plus show where he was a basketball coach, and he actually studied the Bob Knight clip throwing a chair, so he could get the proper technique down for throwing a chair across the floor for a scene in the show.
Iconic. You know, you don't really. Could you imagine Aaron Boone throwing a chair?
That would require Aaron Boone getting up from the chair first.
So,
Does he,
I don't
All
know.
right, we got a few minutes left.
But, anything else, guys? You think we're good?
I don't pay attention to the Mets after the All-Star break when they stink.
Well, you don't pay attention to that before the All-Star break
I'm
either.
so checked out. I hate that god to do. They make me so
Fair enough.
mad.
Yeah. First episode of Hard Knocks, I think, is what, August 8th? I think I read it's after the Hall of Fame game.
Makes sense.
They keep it pretty close to when it was filmed too. So they try and keep it. Well, I guess it would be no month.
Yeah, it's usually only 4 episodes, I think.
Yeah. And usually with reality television like that, it's usually a pretty quick turnaround anyway.
Yeah.
They got a system in place for stuff. But
yeah, they're working on editing all of the fight videos from training camp yesterday.
Well, they'll save it for later. You know, usually with reality shows, you'll show the friendship and then you'll show it dissolve. But it could happen like in a reverse order. Typically with shows like that, they do 6 hours of footage to get 1 episode. Yeah. But all right, I think we're good at this point. I got nothing else unless you guys do.
Oh, let's go get a
Not really too much.
snack.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of a sluggish week. I was tempted to possibly do a trivia thing. Maybe we should do again or Jeopardy again.
Let's see who forgets all their kids' names this time.
Yes, exactly.
That was another one of my favorite Hard Knocks moments. Was the pain, the genuine pain in Antonio Cromartie's face as he's forgetting all of his kids' names.
Well, he was nervous being on camera, right?
I believe that was the story that he went with, yeah. And then and Steve Weatherford's shake weights.
Yes. Steve Weatherford, you're forever in Giants history for dropping an F-bomb on national television after the team went to the Super Bowl. So, all right. So, thanks as always for you guys. I appreciate it. I'm Scott. That's JD. That's Brandon. Take care. As usual, stay awesome.